So Sri Akal, welcome to I'm a Brown Girl. My name's Amma. On today's episode, we're going to be talking about a heartfelt topic, which was, again, surprise, surprise, chosen on my Instagram by you guys, which was the village life in Punjab. Whether it's you want to know more about how villagers live in Punjab, what I've learned while spending time with villagers, or how things are very different on this side of the world, you've come to the right place. Firstly, if you don't already know, I've been in Punjab for the last 2 weeks after traveling, and boy, it is flipping cold. I've never experienced a winter in Punjab, and it's a very humbling experience, but I don't really look forward to coming back to London. I do wish I had more time, but my time is complete, and if you can hear in my voice, I'm actually a little bit sick. I feel fine, but I think it's just like sinus, or like my nose is slightly blocked, my throat kind of hurts a bit. But I think it's just so cold that even when I'm brushing my teeth, there's literally steam coming out of my mouth. And a lot of the temples that we've been to, I have to walk barefooted on the cold marble. So I think that's where I've become sick from. But episode is being recorded. I'm going to edit today as well. I've done this 2 times in a row where I've had to write, record, edit and post in one day just because I'm so busy and there's a lot going on and I've loved every second of my time in India, but it's just girl, we got to make sure we post because consistency is key. Anyway, life in Punjab is wonderful. People are a lot more happier. Sure, there is struggle, especially financial struggle amongst people. But the one thing you can't go without, specifically in Punjab, is food. And this is because majority of Punjab is filled with the Sikh community. This means that there's a gurdwara at every single corner, which means there's langar. If you don't know what langar is the food that is cooked within the gurdwaras. So it doesn't matter where you come from, who you are, what you look like, what religion, we don't care. No one judges in a gurdwara. Everyone is welcomed and everyone is welcome to sit, relax, eat. It doesn't matter where you come from. It's just the foundation is everyone comes to a gurdwara and they must eat before leaving. It's deemed as disrespectful to go to a gurdwara and not eat, or at least take an offering, which kind of makes sense as to why I can never let my friends leave my house without eating something, or at least a drink or something, you know? I always grew up with my mum saying that it doesn't matter if even your enemy comes to your home, you should always make sure they leave fed. That you should be grateful that someone came to your house and they left fed, because some people don't have anyone in their home visit. So you should see it as a blessing. If you're looking for the real village experience, I couldn't recommend Punjab enough. You can see right behind me, my back garden is a field and there's a farm on this side here. It just stretches endlessly and I think it's so beautiful. I love the smell of earth after it's rained. I can't explain it. You'd only know if you've experienced that earthy smell. It smells kind of muddy, but grassy at the same time. It's refreshing. And just the chatter of the village people talking is also quite lovely to me. Punjab is a place where every corner is filled with a story. It's hard to find in the Western side of the world. People are too busy working or stressed out and depressed. Honestly, villagers are just too busy making jar and having a good chit chat and living their best life to be depressed. Since being in Punjab, I have seen some of the world's most incredible temples in terms of the architecture and interiors. It really does take my breath away at times. And if you are someone who's into history and culture, I'd really recommend just taking a few days out to go around a few temples to see for yourself, because they are truly something incredible. I want to start by talking about my first encounter with village experience and life. Growing up, many of my summer holidays were spent in Punjab, visiting my relatives in my parents' villages. Right from stepping out of the plane, the heat and humidity hits you quite intensely, and the smell of cow shit as well, which to an average person would be quite disgusting. But for me, it's very nostalgic. Even in terms of routine, it was very calming and relaxing from what I remember, because my dad's old house used to be connected to a gurdwara. So every morning when the prayers would go off, we'd hear them and you wake up according to that. And when it's kind of time to wind down, you'd have, I guess, the night prayers. And we kind of went with our routines for that. So we never really had alarm clocks from what I remember. I used to spend a lot of time with my dad's 7 sisters, which unfortunately some of them have completed their life. May their souls rest in peace. I used to spend a lot of time with my mum's dad, so my granddad. And as a result of spending a lot of time with them, I feel like I'm a lot more closer with my faith and identity as an adult. Even with the small things like putting coconut oil in my hair, it was never an issue for me in India, because I'm not going to have some ignorant white kid tell me, you stink, because that's what everyone does here. It's the norm, hence why Indian hair is wonderful. I mean, my hair is dyed right now and it's in repair. But either way, my hair when I was younger was just, chef's kiss. I don't know if anyone can relate to this, but in terms of my identity and connection with my relatives, I think it's a lot better now that I'm an adult, because when I was younger, it's not that I didn't get on with them, I did, but I was still a child. I was still under the guidance of my parents. So I went along with whatever my parents did. But now that I've spent a lot more time with my relatives on one-to-one kind of basis, I know them very differently and they know me very differently. And I feel like they actually get to know me as a person. And it's a very wonderful feeling to have that. Also, when I'm referring to villages, I don't mean just my personal experience or my family members. I mean, it could be my neighbor or the man who works down the road, the guy who works in the field down there, who's a farmer, or the people who look after the cows and everything. Like, it could just be like the local people within the Pind or Punjab or the village is what I'm talking about. It could be, just the people of Punjab is what I'm referring to. I find that villagers are also very open to foreigners, despite there being a language barrier. There was this white couple at the temple that I saw like a week ago who were clearly lost for direction, and they were talking to the villagers, like the people in the Gurdwara, to try and figure out where to go. And before they even got an answer, the villagers were offering them food and water just to get that out of the way, which I think is just typical villager, Punjabi, Indian mentality, just to make sure these people were not hungry or thirsty, just to like get that out of the way. And then they kind of figured that, they're looking for directions, and they were looking around, and then they saw me and I could speak English. So I did end up helping them in the end, and it was fine. So, I think it's really sweet that the villagers will turn to food and water first as a solution for anything, and then help people as much as they can. They're very accommodating. So don't ever feel that, villagers are not open to foreigners or won't try and help you. Like, they're always trying to help, even if they don't understand. Now, I want to talk about a few things that I've learned whilst being in India, in Punjab, in the village. So if you do decide to come to the village, please take this as advice, and it might be helpful for you in the future. Number one is community and connection. Villages are not just clusters of homes. They are communities built on trust, companionship, and support. Neighbors are like extended family, always ready to lend a hand or share a meal. I got to experience sitting on a village farm amongst cows, buffaloes, puppies, cow shit, and a whole lot of other things. And they made me jar right in front of me on an open fire with the milk from the cow that was on my left, which was just insane. And it was the best jar I've ever had in my life because it was so fresh. I even just go over to my neighbor's house when I'm bored just to have some jar or have a snack or some food or whatever. And instead of them seeing it as an inconvenience, they are over the moon to feed me and be like, wow, thank you for coming over. Let me feed you, which I just think you don't get anywhere else in the world. It also made me think about loneliness, that does it really exist in the Pind or our villages? And I'm not too sure. I haven't got statistics to back it up. But either way, every single day that I've been here, I've never felt lonely. And even in terms of the older people, they're always talking. They're just sitting in the outside bit in front of their homes, just having a little chit chat. And if you go to my Instagram story, you can see what I mean when I say we always sit outside in the sun. We always have a chit chat. There's always tea being served. We're always just talking. There's always that constant connection. So there's no room for loneliness, which I really like. That takes me on to my second point, which is respect for elders. Right up until this trip, I never knew who my daddy was as a person, which is my dad's mum, because she completed her life when I was quite young. But through talking to my older cousin and my auntie who's with me right now, I got to learn that she was a very beautifully spoken person, that she never used to get angry, that she had 13 kids in total, of which 10 survived. She died a very poor woman, but she was completely content with her life and happy at heart. And I'm always in awe to hear these stories, because if I don't spend time with my relatives or take the time out to, get to know who my ancestors were, I'll never know these things. I also learned about my grandfather, who was a very respected man, how my dad's parents really loved each other and had a happy marriage, and how he passed when my dad was only 7, which is such an awful thing to experience. But my granddad left a very strong mark on his family and community. And even if I go back to his village now and be like, oh, I'm the granddaughter of my granddad's name, like people would know me, which I don't mean to say it in like an ego way, but it's just really like, wow, that's really wholesome. Hopefully that inspires you to actually get to know about your relatives and ancestors and actually having more communication and connection with your relatives, especially your older relatives. It really gave me a treasure trove of knowledge and life lessons. I've also come to appreciate the value of listening, observing, and learning from elder people who have lived lots of experiences in life before us. I used to think that old people are so boring and that they just drink cha all day and go to the gurdwara and they just pray all day. Like, that must be so boring. But honestly, I think they've got it right, because personally, if I got to do that every day in my old age, I must have done something right. So shout out to the old people, innit? But the point I'm trying to make, and why I included this in the points of advice, is if you do go back to your village or even come to Punjab, I'd really recommend you to try and communicate to older people, because sometimes you see older people and you might think, oh, we can't talk to them, but Google Translate is there for a reason and it works pretty well. There are so many things you can learn from older people that you would never know unless you try to have a conversation with them, and they are very open to it. Even though the internet has modernized Punjab and most people do own phones, there is still that historic vibe. Before, villagers would live in homes that had no ceiling. They would cook on open fires with like a metal sheet so they could put their roti on it. And that's how they would cook, which is also known as a chulla. You would hand wash everything. You had fans made out of fabric where you'd have someone pull it back and forth on the ceiling to give you some sort of air. But now we have fans. Before, you would just have woven beds and you'd just put a few blankets down and that would be your bed. But now we have actual bed frames. So a lot has changed, but I feel like a lot still remains traditionally. We might not use all of the things from the past, but a lot of the things from the past still do exist. Number 3 is, of course, how beautiful Punjab and the village is. Right now, if you're watching, you can see my background is my back garden, which is a farm. I don't know what they grow. I think it depends on the harvest season, so only the farmers would know. But the beauty of Punjab's landscape instills a sense of peace and gratitude, because people here eat depending on what the earth gives them. Farming is massive in Punjab, if you don't already know, especially with like the farmers' rights and the battle that was going on with that, which I don't really want to talk about, but I would recommend you do your research. The food that we eat here is fresh. You'll even see swamps and massive piles of rubbish. You'll see farms, farmers, market stalls, lights. There is nothing that Punjab does not offer you. And as I said, it's modernized with the internet. So you'll find beautiful restaurants as well. So it's not like it's just one experience. You can get every kind of experience. I think with any country, the best way to know is to actually go there and see it for yourself. It's not always just dirty streets and dirty street food and blah, blah, blah. And to be fair, that is a part of the culture, which I still appreciate, because you don't get that anywhere else. So instead of seeing it as, that's disgusting, appreciate it. There's a reason why things are like that. We don't have systems in place that the Western side of the world does, where we can just easily get rid of our rubbish. You know, there's so much that we don't have, but make do with what we have. So it's something to really appreciate. In terms of why I think I feel so connected to my roots, not only just me as like someone who's been brought up in the UK, but even backpackers and like the research that I've done, or why people feel apprehensive to come to India, but once they've come, they're just like, oh wow, it's actually really amazing. The only way to know is to visit yourself. Every time I visit my village, it feels like home, and I feel like I've lived here in a past life. I'm sure about that. It's when I hear the prayers from the mandir or the masjid or the gurdwara. There's no way you'd get away with putting out prayers on speakers in the UK, because people are bloody racist and they'll just call it an inconvenience. Jesta Pind or Stajind is a popular saying in Punjabi, which means one is connected to the village for life. That deeply resonates with me. Being part of a community that values tradition, hospitality, and hard work is something that I deeply cherish. For the last section of this episode, I wanted to also mention a few tips that I would recommend for exploring the village. Number 1 is being conscious of harvest season. So India relies heavily on farming. So depending on what month it is, you will get certain vegetables and fruits. I mean, I'd still recommend to avoid the winter because it's flipping cold, but the food is amazing. I just feel like there's not really ever a wrong time. It just depends on you as to if you can cope with the cold, you'll still have a good time. But if you come in the summers, you won't get the experience of the winter. It's really dependent on you. But again, it's always a good experience in my opinion. Literally, if you Google cropping seasons in India, you'll have a lot more information. But from what I know, in the winter, you'll have things like carrots, peas, potatoes, mustard. And in the summer, it's more seasonal vegetables, fruits, soybean, rice, things like that. Either way, you're not going to miss out because the food in India is just, it's wonderful. Number 2, as I already mentioned, engage with the locals, actually talk to people, get to know them. Google Translate is there for a reason. Number 3, similar to number 1, is be conscious of events as well, because India has many things like Diwali, Lodi, Holi, Vaisakhi. There's so many festivals. The thing with Punjab specifically, because most people are from the Sikh community, there's always something going on. There is never a boring month or a week where something isn't going on. We've got 10 gurus in Sikhism, which means that there's always a birthday going on in one of the temples for one of our gurus, which always means there's going to be some sort of celebration in the Gurdwara. There's always going to be more langar going on as well. In the village, we celebrate the first of the month, which is Masya. So you'll have like market stalls that sell food, clothes, whatever you want. It's really fun to be around. Either way, the point I'm trying to make is Punjab in the village is never boring. But if you want to see a specific festival, I'd recommend you to plan your trip around that. And lastly, I know this is biased, but India will always have my favorite food in the whole wide world. Yes, I'm Indian. Yes, I love Indian food, but there's just something, the taste, the freshness, you just cannot get it anywhere else. Personally, my favorite restaurant in the whole of Punjab is Haveli. Haveli is like Disham without the Western vibe. It's a lot more traditional. And if you go to the Amritsar branch, they have a museum that showcases the old village life of Punjab and how people would live. They have these beautiful figurines. So if you go into my story onto my Instagram with the Punjab highlight, you'll see what I'm talking about. But I swear, Haveli has all the Indian food you could ever want. There is nothing that they don't offer, including some South Indian food as well. It's so clean, it's so fresh, the food tastes amazing, and I couldn't recommend you more to go and try Haveli. Before I come to the end of this episode, I really want to talk about one very important factor that I've learned whilst being in the village, in Punjab. Life in the village is very simple. You make do with what you have, you adjust, and you don't complain. It makes you grateful for what you have. I had a real wake-up call whilst traveling and being in Punjab, and I realized how little we really need. I used to be such a shopaholic to the point where I now have 15 to 20 pairs of trainers that some I've worn probably once or twice, some unworn, and I have clothes with tags on, unused makeup. And I think that's mental because you have villagers with 5 to 6 outfits that they just wash in rotation with minimal belongings who are very content with their life. I'm not saying I need to feel bad about having nice things, but it did make me think that I shouldn't be so wasteful or overconsume on things I don't need. My back garden is a farm / a field. I'm on my rooftop recording my episode. I've had some warm tea. I've had a good meal. I'm going to go down and edit. I've worn the same 2 outfits for 2 weeks, which I've just washed on rotation. The point I'm trying to make is you really need to take a moment to appreciate what you have and how little you really need. And that in itself can bring you calm with your busy mind. To wrap things up, village life is not just a way of living, it's a way of being. It's about community, roots, and permanent connection with our heritage. I hope today's episode has sparked a longing for you to explore, learn, and appreciate the beauty of village life within Punjab and within your own culture. If you have any questions about village life in Punjab or you want any travel tips coming to the village in Punjab, feel free to drop me a DM. I'll be more than happy to help. If you want to view more content or know about my village life in Punjab, I'd recommend you to just go over to my Instagram and stalk my highlights, which should be Bind and Punjab. It'll have Indian flags on them, so I'd recommend you to go and do that, which is I'm a Brown Girl. In terms of mini check-in, my time here is almost complete. I don't feel like going back home. I really love being here. I really want to make active steps to make this my reality, where it's 6 months on and off because I really love Punjab. It's just the sense of community that you can't find that anywhere else. I wake up every single day and I feel happy, and I don't feel this sense of like, oh, I dread going back and I hate London, because I do love London. It's my home. It's where I've been brought up. I think I've just had a complete change of perspective in terms of appreciating what you have. So even in terms of, whatever job I go into, or if I'm having a hard day, for me, I just don't feel like it's ever the end of the world. I just feel like it's that moment. And I know that I would appreciate it a lot more to just think that it's just never that bad. It's just never that deep, that you should be bloody grateful to be alive, that you are healthy, you get to eat, you get to do whatever you want, you have money to do what you want. Like, it's not worth complaining. And yes, I know the atmosphere and the weather of the UK can be down sometimes, but it's no surprise. I feel like it's really down to perspective to, help you view things differently and change your mindset to be a lot more positive rather than being so negative. You really have to appreciate life for what it is, because life is too short. Anyway, that was super cheesy, but really wholesome as well. I thank you if you made it this far. I really, really appreciate your time. If you did enjoy today's episode, give it a like, subscribe, share it with your family, your friends, your dog, your auntie, your uncle. Until next time, stay connected to your roots. I thank you so much for watching. I thank you so much for listening. Thank you. Dhanyavad. Sat Sri Akal. Bye.